From the studios of the WBCR radio station, it's the Bret Sean Show. All right. Welcome to the afternoon drive with Bret Sean. It's a beautiful Monday here in New York City, and the track you just heard is called "Pick Up the Pieces," our new intro song. So we hope you got you juiced up for this Monday morning show. And listen, folks, a lot of changes occurring after today. Our summer schedule begins Wednesday, June 7th. We'll be live every Wednesday at 1 p.m. during the summer, and that same day will be our video debut. We're moving up from audio only to video as well. And in the studio, we've got Frank here, who's working both the board and phones. I told Joan not to come in today because I thought Maura was going to be with us, but she's actually taking her final exam today, which I forgot about. So our Swiss Army knife himself, Frank, is working both the board and the phones. How you doing today, Frank?
I'm doing great, Brett. Better than ever.
How about your weekend? You had a nice weekend?
The weekend was great, even though Saturday was a bit of a washout, but at least I was able to go outside, get some fresh air, all ready to go.
Yes, sir. And look, Frank is debuting his show here in the fall. So excited for him. Like I said, does a lot here for us, and we're thankful for him. And look, he's going to get to your call. So the number to call is 718-951-4444. A lot to get to today in the world of sports. Sean, how about you? How you doing?
Doing good. Finals are finally done, but man, my Boston Celtics have disappointed me.
They've looked disgusting, to say the least, but we're going to dive into that later on. We're going to take care of first order of business here, which is baseball, a lot going on. And look, last week against the Blue Jays, Aaron Judge was accused of cheating before smacking his second home run of the night in the top of the eighth inning. The speculation began in the Blue Jays broadcast booth. Here's a clip of what was said.
All right, Buck, so you and I looked at each other at the same moment right when we saw this three pitches ago.
Watch what he's looking at.
Yeah. What is that?
Where's he looking?
Where is he looking? And he did it more than once.
Yeah, it's really, really unusual.
You don't want to go, throwing allegations around without knowing, but...
No. And you know what? I have had guys look back when I was catching, and you obviously could see it, and he couldn't see the catcher with the way he was looking right there.
Yeah, just did it again. And he pummeled it. He hit it a country mile for his second home run of the night.
Third time this season, and Aaron Judge has hit 2 homers in a game, and once again, he's looking at something, and then the next move is that powerful swing, and he blasts one to center field.
Oh, man, I love when the announcer goes, "What is that? What was that?" And I'm going to tell you what it is, Sean. He's looking into the Yankees dugout clearly for some information. He's looking for signs for, the pitcher was obviously tipping, and the Yankees were aware of that. That's the only reason he was glancing into the dugout, Sean. Maybe if it was one glance, maybe there was some chirping going on and he just wanted to see. But this is 3-4 glances. There's something suspicious going on there.
Honestly, it wasn't cheating, and obviously the Blue Jays commentary is going to pick it up because it's the Yankees doing it. But honestly, that wasn't cheating. Sure, maybe it gives them an advantage, but honestly, was he really going to be able to completely cheat just off of a few glances? That's my thing. And obviously the MLB is going to be way more aware or looking out for cheating after what happened with the Houston Astros in 2017. But honestly, what Aaron Judge did is not cheating, but he didn't help himself with his post-game comments.
No, he didn't. But, it's not a coincidence that the very next pitch he hit the ball, like the announcer said, a country mile. I mean, that ball must have went 450 feet into the third deck. I mean, that was a bomb. But like you said, his post-game press conference, it only added fuel to the fire. Here's what Judge had to say about why he was glancing into the Yankees dugout during his at-bat.
A lot of chirping from our dugout, which I really didn't like in the situation where it's a 6-0 game, and I know Booney got tossed. I was trying to save Booney by calling timeout. Hey, hold up here. Let me work here. So I was kind of trying to see who was chirping in the dugout. So it's 6-0. Booney got tossed. Let's go to work now.
I mean, come on, Aaron. I mean, what is he talking about? I mean, he's talking about Booney getting tossed. I mean, look, he's looking into the dugout 4 times. Like I said, he's smashing the ball the very next pitch. I mean, when a guy's throwing 95 plus, you're not going to waste your time and perhaps, lose your focus and concentration by looking to see about some yelling going on in the dugout. It just doesn't make sense. It sounds very fishy to me, and I'm not saying it's cheating because obviously there's no electronics being used or anything like that like it was in 2017, but I just don't like when these Yankee players in particular, you look at Garrett Cole last year with the sticky stuff, giving his weird post-game press conference about, being accused of using it. That was a very strange press conference. And the same with Judge. I just don't know what he's talking about. Booney getting tossed. Look, we know he got tossed, Aaron, but you're looking into the dugout multiple times. We all know what you were doing.
And it's like, why even mention Booney? Why even address it as even a possibility? What he should have done from the get-go, once that question was asked, is completely shut it down. It wasn't cheating. Because now, with the comments, people are going to take it whatever way they want, and they're going to use him. They're going to use it against him now. And what might end up happening, honestly, is people might look for it more if in future games if he does the same thing. So if I was Aaron Judge, I would have just shut it down from the get-go and be like, no, it wasn't cheating. But he left it out like open in the air as like a possibility, and now people are going to interpret his words whatever way they want to fit his narrative. And now in future games they'll look into it more.
And look, Sean, the Yankees were playing poor up to that point. All of a sudden, they're winners of 6 out of 7. They're getting hot, and right in the middle of it is that accusation. So if anything at all, it presents a major distraction, I think, going forward. And why not just be honest, Sean, because I'm going to read a quote from Mets starting pitcher Max Scherzer about missing the days of sign stealing in baseball. He said, "Stealing signs is part of the game. For me, I've always taken pride in having a complex system of signs and having that advantage over other pitchers." So it's not like you said, it's not like electronics are being used. It's not like trash cans are being banged. It's just the simple dynamic of picking up on a pitcher's tendencies and looking for those tips, and it looks like that's what the Yankees are doing here.
Right. It's the small hints to get yourself like a mental advantage of what you think is going to happen, so you know how to anticipate it. It's not like the whole that whole trash can thing with the Astros. That was completely pre-planned, a complete plan to like cheat. But this was more of Aaron Judge just picking up on the tendencies of the pitcher to see how exactly he's supposed to bat.
I mean, like I said, just be honest about it. Yankees, like I said, all of a sudden getting hot. There might be something going on there. Now we're going to talk about the Mets a little bit because they're winners of 5 straight, more Mets magic here of late. And I think their season really turned around last week in that 8-7 win over the Rays. I mean, that was a major comeback. The baby Mets were big contributors in the win. Mark Vientos hit a game-tying 2-run home run in the 7th. Francisco Alvarez hit a game-tying 3-run home run in the 9th. And then Pete Alonso obviously ended the game with a walk-off 3-run homer in the 10th. Just a huge win, Sean. Fought back 3 times to win that game. Huge win.
Exactly. Big-time win. Big performance from the young kids, too. Something you'd like to see, especially we've been talking about the past few weeks. The Nets need these young kids. The Mets need these young kids to step up. But honestly, if the Nets want to be consistently good, they need their top-end talent to step up, too. Because even though these young kids are stepping up, it's nice to see. It's a great moment. It's a great run. They're not going to get you to that promised land that you want to be, and for the amount of money that Steve Cohen put into this team to be successful. For sure. It's a $377 million team. So like you said, the veterans need to pick it up here, and I think they have. You look at Pete. He's getting back on track. He leads the MLB in home runs. You look at Starling Marte, he's getting back on track. Huge 2-run home run yesterday in the doubleheader. Brandon Nimmo breaking his cold streak, hitting a home run. Jeff McNeil starting to find holes again. So you see these veterans starting to come around because, like you said, Sean, these young kids, they're not going to stay hot forever. There are some growing pains. These are very talented ball players, don't get me wrong. But you can't expect your young kids, especially rookies, to carry you through an entire season. That's where your veterans come into play. And now, we're not talking about the Deadwood veterans. We're not talking about Daniel Vogelbach. We're not talking about Eduardo Escobar. We're not talking about Mark Canha. We're talking about all-star level veterans, right? So we need these guys to get it going. And you see what the Mets are capable of when they do get it going. They have it going. The young kids are hot.
this team could be a very competitive, very good ball club.
Right. There's flashes of what this team could be. There's flashes of true promise for this team, but it's like, as of yet for the season, they haven't fully achieved it. And now this is a great stepping stone for them with the young kids playing the way they are, for the Mets to capitalize on the moment and get the whole team playing like this too.
Well, look, we're going to get to the phones and hear what you guys have to say. And first up on the show, we've got Richard in Brooklyn. What's going on today, Rich?
Hey, what's going on?
How you doing here?
What's up, man?
I'm doing good. I just want to talk some Mets.
Oh, let's hear it. We love to talk Mets.
I don't think it's a coincidence that the Mets went on this winning streak as soon as they called up Mark Vientos. What do you guys think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said, these Deadwood veterans, we spoke about it with Nick last week. Daniel Vogelback, biggest guy in the league, can't hit the ball, doesn't even look to swing the bat. It's pathetic. Eduardo Escobar, he's a better cheerleader than he is player. I've been in support of him. I like him in the clubhouse, but he has proven me wrong. He has not been able to hit the ball. Who else is there? Mark Canha, another guy. I'm not impressed with him. So I like the juice that the young kids are giving us for sure.
And look, like I said, this is a promising time for the Mets. They need to capitalize. They need to take this and build momentum off of it, because if they don't, these young kids are eventually going to run out of steam, and you're going to get nothing from them. They'll probably get sent back down, and these veteran players need to step up. They need to see what these young kids are doing and be like, okay, we got something here. Let's capitalize on the moment. I'm just worried that how unexperienced these young guys are, that they won't be able to keep it up. And if the Mets star players don't step up either, the Mets won't be able to fulfill the moment.
Yeah, I agree. I think definitely. I mean, Alonso's doing his part, obviously. Lindor,
right, of course.
Lindor seems to be clutch. Nimmo is doing his thing. I think his average is pretty high right now. McNeil needs to step up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that lineup just looks so much better with Beatty, Vientos, Alvarez at the bottom instead of Escobar and Pham. I mean, these guys aren't going to get the Mets anywhere. I think the rookies need to be playing every single day. I think Ronnie Mauricio needs to be up immediately.
Look, Rich, I agree with you. Ronnie Mauricio is leading the minor leagues in hits. Like you said, Eduardo Escobar, he was hitting, 87 or whatever it was. That's not going to cut it, obviously.
Definitely not.
That's not going to cut it. Tommy Pham, you're not Steve Cohen didn't pay all this money to trot out Tommy Pham hitting 150 in the 5-hole behind Pete. There's a reason Pete Alonso's average is down right now. I know his home runs and RBIs are amazing, but his batting average is a little low here, because he has no protection. And now these young kids are coming up. They're proving they could play. And for the Braves, very similar last year. I talked about it last week. Grissom, Michael Harris coming up. That was huge for the Atlanta Braves. That team looked dead in the beginning, and just like the Mets have. Now, I'm not saying they're going to turn it around and win this division. We'll see. But they're definitely making a strong case for the postseason if they keep playing like this. So you have to play them every day to form some type of consistency.
Right, you got to... You got to form some type of consistency so that they could play on par with the star players. If the star players get going, if you could find a way to blend the two together, the rookies' momentum and the star players getting back on track, then the Mets have something. They have a true chance at a run in the postseason. But we'll see. It all depends. Can they strike while the iron's hot? The iron's hot right now. Can you strike when the moment is in your favor?
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, I was so impressed with Verlander and Scherzer yesterday. I mean, those two dominated. They were unbelievable.
That's what the Mets paid for. I mean, 14 innings of one-run ball.
Yep.
Scherzer 6 scoreless, pitching through that blister. You love to see that. Verlander 8 innings, 1 run, matching Bieber, pound for pound there, getting the better of him. And it's what the doctor ordered for the Mets, because they haven't been able to go 6 innings, these pitchers. So once they start doing that, they're going to be in great shape, because this lineup is starting to come together. The bullpen has been solid at the top, and guys like Dominic Leone, not so much, hasn't been good. But the team is starting to come into form, and like I said, not too far back from the Braves right now. So I know the Phillies, they have these all-star players, MVP level players, but there's just something, the Mets match up well for some reason with them year in and year out. They always kind of, either win those series or hang in there for the most part. But the Braves have kind of been their kryptonite here. So in order for the Mets to win this division, they're going to have to figure out the Braves. But like I said, they're definitely in striking distance and making a strong case with these young kids.
Yeah, and
Yeah, and I got one trade idea for you guys. To help with the, behind Verlander and Scherzer, it's a little shaky. So I was thinking maybe go get Dylan Cease from the White Sox. I mean, they're struggling. He's struggling right now a little bit, but I believe in him. I mean, he had a 2.20 last year, I believe, somewhere around there. He was elite last year. He has good strikeout stuff, and I think that with him struggling right now, maybe you get a cheap price for him and try and steal him from Chicago.
Couldn't agree with you. Couldn't agree with you more, Richard. I mean, you got to buy low on this guy. This guy was second in the Cy Young behind our guy Verlander last year. You got to buy low on him, just like the stock market. Dylan Cease he's got great strikeout stuff. He brings moxie, a little bit of swag, and look, he is 27 years of age, which is what I like. Yeah,
it's true.
The biggest thing with the Mets is everybody's been criticizing these older pitchers. You can't rely on these guys. But like you said, a little shaky. Senga has found his rhythm as of late. You like to see that kind of finding the strike zone. He's been a little wild throughout his MLB career thus far. But he's not old, but, he's 29, pushing 30. So I'd like to see a younger guy like Dylan Cease in there with potential to be Cy Young stuff. So I'd like to see them pursue that closer to the deadline, wait it out a little bit.
Yeah, I think they need it, and I think Senga will adjust. I mean, he's coming over from a different country. I think once he adjusts fully to the MLB, I think he'll be fine. He has really good stuff. Absolutely,
and he's showing great signs of late. But Rich, we appreciate your call, and we hope to hear a lot more from you throughout this show, throughout the coming weeks.
Yep. Enjoy your day, guys.
Thank
you too. Take care. All right, next up, we're going to get to Daniel out in Brooklyn. What's going on today, Daniel?
Hey, how we doing, boys?
I'm doing
good.
well. Sean,
Not good.
Sean's been a little banged up here this morning. He came into the studio with a pouty face.
The poor Celtics fan.
Poor you, Sean.
Poor you, Sean.
Yeah, he was having his fun, Daniel, with our Knicks struggling while his Celtics prevailed against the Philadelphia 76ers.
By Philly, so he's got to take his wins when he can.
Mm-hmm. What's going on, Daniel?
What's up, man? What you got?
Just real quick about the Mets, I have a quick question.
Uh-huh.
Why is Adam Ottavino such a dinger bum that we're not talking about? Because all this guy does, he comes into a game and he'll give up a home run and we'll lose the lead. I am done with Adam Ottavino. I didn't like the signing when it happened, and I think the offense is going to be okay. But to me, the bigger concern is his bullpen. Because right now, after the 7th or 8th inning, I don't trust the next guy to come in and hold this lead other than Robertson. Because Smith hasn't proven anything to me, rarely can't stay healthy. And then what's after that? Ottavino, who only gives home runs?
You make a good point, Daniel, because I agree. After David Robertson, there's really nothing to feel confident in. Now, I'm not saying Adam Ottavino can't be great because we saw it last year. He was relatively great for the most part last year, pitching to a 2.09 ERA, something like that. So he showed moments last year. This year, he's been more bad than good, I'd say, giving up those big home runs like you said. But we got to give David Robertson some credit because he has really carried this Mets bullpen in the absence of Edwin Diaz, and it's just a shame because I wonder what this bullpen would look like with Edwin Diaz because David Robertson, before he gave up that home run yesterday that I believe was Adam Ottavino's fault for even having to bring in Robertson in that situation,
Absolutely.
A guy who's been so overworked up to this point, an older pitcher. He was pitching to a .90 ERA. 8 for 8 in save opportunities, now 9 for 9 after yesterday. I mean, the guy's been, you could say he's been the best closer in baseball statistically. I mean, I don't see how you could dispute that. The ERA is below 1, perfect in save situations. So it's just a shame that they don't have Edwin Diaz. Like you said, Drew Smith can't be trusted. We saw it with him year in and year out. He always looks phenomenal in the beginning, and then he starts giving up home runs. He starts throwing flat fastballs. It always happens with him. Dominic Leone, who I mentioned, he's horrible. He's not good. There's a couple other guys down there who, Tommy Hunter, I've seen enough of him.
Oh, I can't with Tommy Hunter, bro. I can't anymore.
I've seen
Buck
enough.
loves him, but all he does is give home runs, dude.
I've seen enough of Tommy. I've seen enough. And he's not the only one. There's a couple guys down there. But, I know you didn't bring this up, but in terms of the starting pitching, I just got to say this, Daniel. You turned out to be right about David Peterson. You did, at least thus far. He's looked awful. He's looked terrible.
This is what he does, Brett. He goes through these stretches where he looks great, and then he'll fall off the face of the earth. He reminds me of Steven Matz. And when Steven Matz was on, he was good for 4 innings. But there was always that one inning where he gave up 10 runs. And David Peterson's like Steven Matz. He'll go through a stretch where he'll have 6 scoreless innings, but then he'll just implode.
Daniel, I gotta be honest with you, Daniel. I'd rather see Jose Butto at this point than David Peterson. I mean, the guy has an over 7 ERA. It's not going to cut it, you know?
No, I think, it's the same problem with starting pitching. After Senga, what's there? Cookie can't get through the first inning sometimes. And then what? We're going to trotch out Jose Brito? Jose Quintana hasn't been here. We don't know what he's going to bring. And it's like, while the offense I think is going to be okay, I like what I've seen from that. I think they're going to be fine. The pitching is where the biggest need is. And just having consistency is just going to be the big factor here because nobody can be trusted.
Well, you got to give them a chance to find that consistency. At least I know they haven't proved up to par.
We're 6 weeks in. If there's no consistency now, where's it going to be?
Okay, but you got to find it eventually with them somewhere. But you can't just completely give up on them now.
Yeah, but Sean, you even said
cycle them in and out.
Sean, you even said it while watching Carrasco pitch. You said he's horrible. You said this Mets pitching staff is shaky. You know,
the one guy who doesn't have a track record on this team is Kodai Senga. Everybody else, we know their tendencies, and frankly, I've seen enough of half of these guys already.
Yeah, I mean, our last caller, Rich, he made a good point about Dylan Cease. That's something I'd look into at the trade deadline. Obviously, you don't want to do it now because you're going to get fleeced. You want to wait it out a little bit, but
yeah, I agree. I think at this point, I would focus more on the bullpen than the starting pitching, and I would look at a guy like Diaz's brother in Cincinnati, or even the guy in Pittsburgh, Bendar. Guys who can come in and support Robertson because we don't have that.
Daniel, you
and
have to.
This guy's going to be gassed come the postseason, come July.
You have to do that, Daniel, because you really have to do that because, like I said, this bullpen, David Robertson, Adam Ottavino in particular, have been so overworked. I mean, Robertson's pitched in 5 out of the last 6 days. Same with Ottavino, and you saw some declining stuff yesterday in that doubleheader. You saw Ottavino give up that bomb. Give up 3 runs. You saw David Robertson, who's looked phenomenal all year, give up that home run to Jose Ramirez. So the innings, they eventually catch up to you, whether you like it or not. So that's the trickle-down effect from not having Edwin Diaz. Obviously, you miss the best closer in baseball because of the statistics, but you miss him because it also moves everybody else's spot up. So now Robertson has to pitch more. Ottavino has to pitch more. And those innings add up. Not only do you have older starting pitchers, Daniel, you have older relievers as well.
Absolutely, and I think that's the problem, is that you need there's no pitching depth. Not even in the minors. That's been the problem from even before Billy Epler got here, and that hasn't been addressed, and now we're seeing the fruits of that there's nothing there.
No, and, Steve Cohen, you're going to have to do something at the deadline, bring in depth, do whatever you got to do. But, Daniel, I got to ask you, because you're a pessimistic Mets fan like I am, are you feeling better about the state of the Mets right now?
I'll say this, because what happened with Washington and who we put in Cincinnati was absolutely disgusting, and it was atrocious. And I thought we were going to get swept by the Rays and maybe take one from Cleveland. But I have to say they beat 2 really good teams. They beat 2 really good playoff teams, and they beat some really good pitching. So that impressed me. And I think proving that the offense to me, scoring runs again, and proving they have some clutch hitting in them, really kind of gave me some more confidence in the offense. But the more I see from this older pitching staff, the more I'm starting to get PTSD of the former years where it's just this team's going to collapse come August. So while I'm not shocked, but I'm kind of impressed by how they handled the past 2 series, I'm also having that bit of worry of if this team if they don't keep it together, they're going to implode.
Well, I don't really think they're going to implode. I think it's more of this is a good starting point for them. This is something that they could build on. And like I referenced before, they got to strike while the iron's hot. You can't depend on all these rookie guys and all these young guys to be able to stay consistent because they haven't been taught to do that yet. So it's all about, can they remain good while the top-end talent starts to blend with them together so it could all come together before these young guys start to fizzle out.
And I agree. I think they're going to have a good test because now they go in Chicago, which is a house of horrors for us, but they go into Chicago, which is a good test, and then they go to Colorado for 3 games. So I think this is a good road trip right now to see where this team really is at, because these are 2 teams they should be beating.
Yep.
These are teams that they're better than.
Yep. And like you said, there are challenges there, even though they're better, because Chicago, House of Horrors, like you said, Wrigley Field, and Colorado, as we all know, anything could happen up there. The ball flies. But, Daniel, I'm glad to hear you're doing better, as am I. And what a difference a week can make, really, because last week we were crapping all over the Mets. This week we're singing their praises. So
isn't baseball beautiful?
Baseball,
it's a nice long season. You got plenty of time.
Not for my blood pressure, it isn't. But a lot of ebbs and flows, Daniel.
Peaks and valleys. Peaks and valleys.
Yep, that's life.
That's what sports is about.
Sinatra said it. But
unless you're a Yankee fan, you can just send 27 championships and you're sitting pretty. But that's a different story.
Forget the Yankees, Daniel. we love your call as always. We really
guys.
do.
Can't wait to call in the summer.
Absolutely. Enjoy yourself. We'll see you.
Have a great show, guys.
Thank you, too.
All right, next up, we've got Nick out in Brooklyn. What's going on today, Nick?
Well, I got just a couple of quick things. I know we're up against the break, but about Judge, it might not be illegal because technology wasn't involved, but it might be considered Bush League. So my question is, would the Blue Jays be justified in plunking him the next time he came up?
I would do so. I would do it. This Yankees-Blue Jays rivalry has gotten so big. It's very interesting because the Yankees-Red Sox dynamic isn't there the way it used to be. It really isn't. That rivalry's kind of died down over the years. But this Yankees-Blue Jays, you got the Blue Jays manager calling Luis Rojas fat boy. You've got player Alek Manoah, Garrett Cole going at it. I think you should plunk Aaron Judge. Just like Sean and I said about it's part of baseball, stealing signs, trying to get an edge. I also think it's part of baseball to send a message, and I think what better message than hitting the captain of the Yankees, the best player on the Yankees, the reigning MVP. So I'm all for it.
And look, obviously you do it because they're a sports rival to you. So now it's like once they're a rival to you, you take any advantage against them that you can take. And the Blue Jays, and honestly, rightfully so, see what Judge did as an unfair advantage, and they should do the same thing right back to him. It's all part of the game. You want to beat them, so you have to do whatever it takes to be able to do it.
Right. And quickly about the Mets, I think if you wait until the trade deadline, it could be dangerous because you could be in such a hole that you won't be able to dig yourself out of, and you might not get the players that you want. Now, the other GMs know we're desperate, so the Mets are going to have to pay a little bit more, and I think Vientos is going to be a big chip, and I think we can get a good reliever for him.
Yeah, it's true, Nick, but I will say this. I like what Justin Verlander said post-game because he made a good point. He said, we understand we haven't been playing well. We hear it, but the energy has been positive. We have a lot of veterans, good coach. Here's the thing. When he said, if your bad baseball is hovering around 500, you're going to have a very good year because we know the Mets have played probably the worst baseball we've seen in quite a while, between last year and this year, and they still were able to hover around 500. So now they're getting hot. They're on, winning 5 in a row. They go into 2 series that they should win. Now all of a sudden, we could look up in a week from now, they're 6-7 games over 500. They start rolling again. Eventually, by the break, they're 10+ over. So I don't think the Mets are going to dig themselves in a hole. I do think that while it might not be the best, team money could buy in terms of $377 million, eventually these guys have track records and it starts coming through. And you've seen it now with the Mets. They're not as bad as they've played in the first month of the season.
Their record between now and the trade deadline is going to be very significant because if they could keep this up, I don't really see the Mets making any major changes. But if it starts to dwindle down and they start to cool off, then yeah. So I feel like between now and the trade deadline will be very telling to see what the Mets are going to try to do.
Right. I would be screaming if I was Steve Cohen. I'd be screaming at Epler in his office right now. do something.
I mean, yeah, he probably is, but at the end of the day, he's got to take some accountability as well, because I know he's a baseball guy, obviously, but he's not as big a baseball guy as Billy Epler is. It's just, Steve Cohen has too much going on. He really is the money provider, and he was part, no move happens unless Steve Cohen approves it. That's how it works.
Right.
So he's part of this issue with how this team was constructed. It wasn't constructed the best way, but like I said, they have enough guys, they have enough talent and star players to where, it might not reach the potential that everybody thought. This might not be a World Series contender, but if they just play like this, and I still don't even think this is the best baseball they're going to play, then they should have no problem making the playoffs, at least as a wild card. So,
well, the best he could do is Gary Sanchez. That's pretty bad, and I think that Cohen is going to have to eat the contracts of Carrasco and Rogie.
Well, I'm sure he's going to eventually have to eat it up, because honestly, those pieces aren't really tradable as of now. But it's also like this, because you mentioned Billy Epler. Billy Epler's the bigger baseball guy, and while Steve Cohen is the guy that finalizes the decisions, he's not really a baseball guy. So you look at that dynamic, and it's like the guy that makes the baseball decision should be the one that pushes for whatever they want done, because they know the game better than Steve Cohen would. Where I feel like, as Steve Cohen, like Bret said, he has a lot of other things going on. So I feel like the Mets are a priority for him, but it's not the main thing he's honestly focused on.
Yeah, but I don't doubt that
Right.
Steve Cohen, like you said, is going to push for Ohtani. If the Mets are struggling, and I know they don't want to give up the system for Ohtani, but, this is a team that has to make the playoffs at the bare minimum. I mean, you can't win 101 games last year, come into the season with the highest payroll in MLB history, and fail. So it might come to a point where if the Mets play bad again and they're sitting under 500 at the deadline, you're going to hear a lot of Ohtani to the Mets rumors. I'm telling you right now, you're going to hear it.
And they're going to fleece us, and it'll be worth it.
Yeah, you're getting the best player in baseball because, like you said,
you got to give up anything you can for literally the best player in baseball.
You're essentially getting two great players for one. You're getting a great pitcher, and you're getting a middle of the lineup hitter, and you're also getting. Steve Cohen's going to make a lot of money because he's going to bring in a ton of the Japanese fans. That combined with Sanga, it's going to be ridiculous. They're going to start having Japanese nights.
City Field's going to be like $50.
Oh yeah.
Everything's going to be priced up once again.
They're going to start having a lot of Japanese heritage nights at Citi Field, believe me, because that stadium will be packed with Japanese fans because Ohtani is such a big draw. We know that.
Right. All right, well, I'll let you guys go, and I'll listen to the rest of the show and talk to you next week.
Thank you, Nick. Appreciate your call as always as well. And look, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to head to a short break, take about 5 minutes. In the meantime, we're going to play a track from the year 1977. Back after this. We're going to obviously talk about the NBA Conference Finals. But before we do that, I think we should honor future Hall of Famer, Knicks legend, 10-time All-Star, one of the best scorers this league has ever seen, Carmelo Anthony. He's retiring. He retired today, and we're going to play a short clip here of his first introduction as a New York Knick.
At forward, at 6'8" from Syracuse, number 7, Carmelo
Yeah, just a sad day. Just listening to it right there, it still gives me goosebumps. I get a lot of nostalgia listening to that. I mean, like I said, one of the greatest Knicks of all time, one of the greatest players of all time, my favorite Knick of all time. And it's just a shame that, they weren't able to get to the promised land. They had some playoff appearances, and Melo did his thing, but came up short. And it's a sad day for New York sports.
Look, Carmelo Anthony was one of the greatest all-time Knicks. And that 2012-2013 team specifically, that team was awesome. And Melo led that team start to finish. But Carmelo will always be loved by Knicks fans, regardless of how his career ended here. One thing that the Knicks fans always like are guys that are dedicated to the franchise of the Knicks. Because a lot of guys on the same teams, on the same Knicks teams that Melo played for, wanted out. A lot of all-stars never wanted to even come to New York, never even thought of thinking to come to New York. But Melo stayed through thick and thin. Melo stayed the whole time and will always be loved by the city of New York no matter what.
He did, even when he was being pushed out the door by Phil Jackson, who sabotaged this franchise, set us back many, many years. But like you said, wanted to be here, made that known, and you know he's loved because when you see him at the games, he always gets a huge standing ovation from the crowd.
He's always at the big games, too. He's always there representing the team, so he'll always be loved by the fans and the organization.
He is. Congratulations to him and his family. Wish him the best. Like I said, one of the greatest players this league has ever seen. I hope that doesn't get taken for granted because I know he gets a lot of crap, and he has throughout his career. But now it's time to talk about the conference finals and what a disaster this has turned into. I mean, both the Celtics and Lakers, the NBA hates this. Both the Celtics and Lakers, non-competitive, down 3-0. But let's start off with yesterday's game, the Celtics and the Heat. That series has been awful.
What a completely pathetic performance by the Boston Celtics. Start to finish. Top to bottom, the coaching staff, the players, everyone played pathetic. But at the end of the day, Celtics in 7.
Oh, please.
Nah. Joking aside, this series is done. Celtics had no chance after Game 2. They were up, 9, 10 points in that fourth quarter to start, and Jimmy Butler completely took over because Grant Williams is a moron who wants to go at Jimmy Butler like, dude, you're not the same player that Jimmy Butler is. But specifically of that game yesterday, just Celtics had no life after the first quarter whatsoever. Nothing was going in. I like Joe Mazzulla as a coach. This isn't about him being a good or bad coach. He was completely inexperienced for that moment. Eric Spoelstra coach circles around him, and this series is over.
Thank you for bringing up Game 2, Sean, and that point between the moron Grant Williams acting like a big tough guy when his statistics are just not good. Compared to a guy like Jimmy Buckets, I'm going to start calling him Himmy Butler, Sean, because he's really...
He owned both our teams.
Well, I think he's owning your team a little more here. I mean, this series is projected to go 4 games. 4 games, Sean. Nobody saw that coming. I didn't see that coming. This just goes to show that, you know what? The Heat, the one guy they couldn't contain, Sean, you know who that was?
K. Vincent.
No, the one guy the Heat couldn't contain in their playoff run. It wasn't Jason Tatum. It wasn't Jaylen Brown.
It was Jalen Brunson.
It was Jalen Brunson.
Look, yeah, what a rough ride here for the Celtics. This is not at all what I expected, or obviously what they expected. But that game yesterday, they just looked like completely mentally lost. Like they didn't even want to be there. How many threes Gabe Vincent, Max Strus have gotten? And who else? Duncan Robinson, all great. Bam, obviously Jimmy doing their part. But this, start to finish, this Celtics team looked gassed. The Celtics team looks mentally done and ready to start their summer early.
Oh, yeah, ready to head to Cancun. Jason Tatum's wearing, nice clothes. He's got sunglasses. He's ready to check out and
him and
check
LeBron
in.
will be on the same flight.
Oh, yes, they will. Same with Anthony Davis. I'm sure they'll be heading to the club relatively soon here. James Harden has been there, and obviously Ben Simmons was there and still is months ago checked in. But just pathetic. Grant Williams definitely poked the bear with Jimmy Butler. Ever since that pivotal moment, this series has just... Now, look, the Heat were winning the series anyway, but this series has been so lopsided since Grant Williams decided to act like a big tough guy. And it's come to bite him in the butt because Jimmy Butler turned into Himmy Butler because he's just playing phenomenal. And, Jason Tatum, I know he had a historic Game 7 performance against the Sixers, but let's look at him in the Sean, in the playoffs. He's been awful. I got to call it how it is. He's been terrible.
Absolutely.
First in missed shots, first in turnovers, has not made a fourth quarter shot this series. How does that even happen? How do you not make a fourth quarter shot in 3 games when you're out there a majority of the time? Your name's Jason Tatum. You haven't scored in the fourth quarter? What is that?
Honestly, like we just talked about Game 2, at least in Game 2, in that fourth quarter, he was trying to be more of a facilitator. So that I understand. But, it's Game 1 that was more agonizing to me because it's like right off the bat, Miami took our soul, right? It took the soul right out of the Celtics. And from there, it was over. And on the point of Joe Mazzulla, like him, he's a great coach. Look, got us to the Eastern Conference Finals, won 57 regular season games. He's not ready for this moment. He isn't that coach to get this team back to the NBA Finals. And it's clear because he had no adjustments whatsoever in that game, and it showed. And we mentioned Jason Tatum. Jaylen Brown's been absolutely awful too. Jaylen Brown's getting outplayed by freaking Caleb Martin, of all people. And that's not because Caleb Martin's better. That's not because Caleb Martin's just trying harder. That entire Heat team, top to bottom, is just trying harder. And it's absolutely pathetic that this is what the Celtics season has come to.
Sean, Joe Mazzulla is not the guy. The Celtics lost their defensive identity when Ime Udoka did what he did. That was a real force. They had some grit with Udoka. With Mazzulla, they look lost too many times. They've looked lost so many times this season. There's a reason. I understand the regular season's different, Sean, but there's a reason the Knicks, my Knicks, beat your Celtics 3 out of 4 times. And it's not because, look, I understand Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. The Knicks don't have that. But what the Knicks have is they have a coach, they have heart, they have grit. The Celtics are all about flash and style. That's what they're about. Just no heart. And they just quit. They simply just gave up yesterday. I mean, Gabe Vincent, 29 points, more points than Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum combined. That's ridiculous.
Gabe Vincent had 0 points in that playing game against the Chicago Bulls. Where the Heat,
and he stinks.
Literally.
He does stink.
Literally were playing for their season. And what about now? Making every 3 he shoots. Every time I see this guy shoot beyond the arc, he's making that freaking 3. And it's just like the Celtics have no response whatsoever. You just brought up Ime Udoka. One thing the Celtics team you could rely on with the Celtics team after a big loss was a big response. And look, they did that against the Philadelphia 76ers. We talked last week about those Game 6 adjustments that also led to the Game 7 win against Philly. But it's just the Celtics team looks completely out-coached. Joe Mazzulla's too young for this. This is his first season as a coach. And would I fire Joe Mazzulla? Yes. And nothing against him, but for what the Celtics want, this isn't it. Here's a question for you, though. Should the Celtics bring back Brad Stevens?
I don't think they should. I think, no, I don't think they should. I totally agree with you, though, that Mazzulla has to go because, Sean, I mean, if you get swept here, I mean, you're the 2 seed, you get swept. They're 4-5 at home this postseason. That's unacceptable. You cannot be under 500 at home in a postseason. You have to protect home court. That tells me, like I said, it's almost like they're not playing for this coach, Sean. It's almost like they got by in the regular season just on the pure talent from Tatum and Brown. I haven't seen any structure, any identity like I saw last year. That Celtics team had heart. They had fight. They won Game 7 after Game 7, and they just ran into a really tough Golden State Warriors team, and they took them to 6. But, it's a young team last year, still young this year, but I don't see any identity. I just don't see it. And like I mentioned, 4-5 at home, that's not acceptable, Sean. It's just not acceptable.
It's going to be a summer reflection for them. I think tomorrow night, if the Celtics whenever the Celtics get eliminated, whatever game it is, probably tomorrow, that's going to be Marcus Smart's last game as a Celtic. I love him. Great player. He's not that guy. Celtics had a decision also with Jaylen Brown. Do they really want to pay him, 5 years, $290 million? Do you really want to pay Jaylen Brown $290 million? Because I'm telling you right now, because if they're paying Tatum and Brown to combine $600 million over the next couple of years, you got to be not certain that you're a championship team, but certain that you're going to be able to compete at a championship level.
Absolutely. Major changes are coming. It's not just Marcus Smart, like you said, Jaylen Brown, other guys as well. Major changes need to be made in Boston. But look, another series over West that is also 3-0 is that Lakers-Nuggets series. And the Nuggets have just completely played with the Lakers. They've completely outclassed the Los Angeles Lakers, and a lot of it has to do with Jamal Murray. I mean, he is absolutely on fire.
Nikola Jokic is the best player in basketball, and Jamal Murray's returning to his bubble form. Also with the Lakers, not absolutely pathetic, as bad as the Celtics were last night, but I'll tell you who's been absolutely pathetic this whole series, D'Angelo Russell. Like, what the hell? That plus-minus of him on and off the floor is astronomical. Which one was it? Game 2? They were down by 18. They take D'Angelo Russell off the floor, cut the lead to within 3. Austin Reeves is here trying harder than you, bro. Like, it's honestly, like, with the Celtics, it's a collective effort. But with this Laker team, they've been playing well. AD and LeBron have had a good series. But, man, D'Angelo Russell, just awful.
Yeah, LeBron, too. He looks fatigued.
Yeah.
He looks old.
He's not the same player.
You know, he's not Anthony Davis. I understand, you know, putting up the offensive numbers, but too much is going on in the paint. He's not that defensive force, you know, that we've seen. And
Nikola Jokic is the best player in basketball, though. That's I'll say that.
I mean, look, he's been terrific. He really has. I mean, 24 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists, top 2 in points, rebounds, and assists this playoffs. He has put his money where his mouth is. Not winning the MVP this year, maybe taking a little disrespect, you know, maybe a little chip on his shoulder there, you know. But like you said, Bubble Murray is back, and, you know, the Lakers have kind of let this happen. I mean, giving him easy shots to kind of get into rhythm this series. I mean, the transition defense from the Lakers has been poor. Letting Jamal Murray get loose, get those wide open threes in transition, which has really propelled his game this series.
Jamal Murray has had a great series, but it's like the Lakers, that last game, he was all going off in the first half, and then they started to shut him down in the third quarter, but everyone else got going. Bruce Brown has also been good this series, too. He's been very consistent for them, a very good piece off the bench, and honestly, also props to Mike Malone. He got this team to where they needed to be. Murray got hurt. They were kind of like in the picture, but not really the last 2 years, but now they're back, and they're the best team left.
They are, Sean.
They're the best team left now.
I mean, you look at it like this. I mean, I understand LeBron James and Anthony Davis, they have the names, they got the flash. But let's just be honest. Jokic and Murray, they're the better duo. I mean, they're younger, they're in their prime. I mean, they're hitting their stride. This duo is simply better. And besides that, the supporting cast is better as well. You mentioned Bruce Brown, 15 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. First bench player with a 15-5-5 playoff game on 0 turnovers since Andre Iguodala in the 2015 NBA Finals. Now, Andre Iguodala, one of the best role players there was during that time period, contributing to a lot of the Golden State Warriors' success, big shot after big shot, defense, obviously. Bruce Brown playing a crucial role, you know, a much better role than he had on the Brooklyn Nets. On the Brooklyn Nets, I thought he was a joke. I really thought he was a bad, just kind of, you know, joke, but he's really proving himself in Denver. Like you said, credit to Mike Malone and his culture.
With Bruce Brown, it's like he's finally playing to his full expectations. And for Mike Malone, great season for him. He's honestly probably one of the better coaches in the NBA. And the Nuggets, like I said, they're the best team left. They have the best player in the NBA. And I'm sure they'll get the job done against the Miami Heat.
Also, Michael Porter Jr., Sean, because since we're on the topic of
he's
that supporting
hitting his shots,
cast,
finally.
He is. I mean, 14 points. I mean, nothing crazy, but highly efficient. Also, 10 rebounds and 6 assists, career high in assists. Now, he's not known for his defense, obviously, but when he's out there, you cannot let him get going either, because he is also a deadly three-point shooter and a big body that could grab rebounds. So, double-double for him, career high in assists. They just have an all-around team, Denver, Sean. They're really tough to beat. They don't have any weaknesses.
They have no flaws. They have, like, no holes that you could poke in their offense or defense. They're such a complete team, and it's like they have so many different ways to beat you, because Jokic is not that type of superstar that has to go off for, like, these 30, 40-point nights. No, he'll have his 20, 10, and 10 night where he's dishing it out to everyone and creating open shots for them. How many times have we seen Jokic kick out to Murray top of the key wide open because the Lakers don't want to play defense? A lot. And so it's like Jokic is not your traditional superstar, but the way he plays is so smooth, it's so good, and he's amazing, honestly. It's a crime that he didn't win MVP, honestly, because he tries way harder than Joel Embiid tried.
Absolutely. He's, you know, it is a crime, but at the same time, it's not, because, like, I understand Joel Embiid had the regular season numbers. I understand giving him the MVP. He wasn't my choice, but, you know, Jokic, there's just something different about him. You know, his composure is different compared to Embiid. His want to is different compared to Embiid, and you know what? For a guy of his size, a very durable player, a lot of these guys, we've seen injuries. Jokic, it seems like he plays every night. He suits up every night.
And he's not like that physically fit either.
No.
So, right. And it's like, but going back to the Embiid point, like, because a lot of people are clowning Jokic and hating on him because he rested, like, the Nuggets kind of gave up on the last month of the regular season. But honestly, it was probably just to gear for the playoffs because they knew that's all what mattered. They secured the number 1 seed a long time, way before the regular season ended. So for the Nuggets, it was all about the playoffs, and for them, that's what mattered. And obviously, proof is in the pudding now because they're 1 win away from the NBA Finals.
1 win away from their first NBA Finals. The Nuggets never made it, so
exactly.
We both expect them to win this series. And one last point that I will make is I said it a couple weeks ago that the Nuggets, they wanted the Lakers, believe me. They'd rather face the Lakers than the Golden State Warriors just because I'm not saying, it's because the Warriors have a better overall team. But the Warriors, when they get hot from 3, I just don't know if the Nuggets can keep up with that. Unless Jamal Murray is on a flaming hot streak, I just don't know if they would have been able to match that lethal shooting from the Golden State Warriors. They rather go pound for pound, punch for punch with the Lakers because their best players are 2-point scorers. We know that.
Right. And the Warriors play at such a quick pace. They hit threes at a rapid pace, too. So it's like it's definitely defensively and offensively easier for the Nuggets to keep up with the Lakers. And look, they're outplaying them on both ends of the floor. And it's embarrassing that the Lakers and this has happened to the Lakers and the Celtics because I sat here last week saying that I expect that to be the NBA Finals and for the first the 18. And for that to completely flip just 7 days later is insane.
Yeah, well, look, that's not going to happen. We both know that.
No.
And look, next week we're gonna be talking about a Denver-Miami NBA Finals, which is very interesting to say the least. But look, with these last 5 minutes here, we're gonna move on to some WWE now. Night of Champions is coming up. There's 2 matches in particular that we wanted to discuss.
First match being Brock Lesnar against Cody Rhodes. This would be their second match after their first match at Backlash in Puerto Rico, where Cody Rhodes got a roll-up victory over Brock Lesnar. And so now it's interesting because now it's more of like a fight. Brock Lesnar challenged him to more of a fight as opposed to a wrestling match. And I do expect Brock Lesnar to win this match just for the pure fact of trying to extend the feud out, get one more match at Money in the Bank where Cody finally wins and ends the feud. But I do expect a Brock win. I do expect a big fight. Maybe there'll be some blood intentionally that they'll bust hard way, and we'll see. I'm sure it'll be a good match. I'm expecting a Brock Lesnar win for the feud to continue, and out of the feud, Cody Rhodes will be even a bigger star than he already is.
Yeah, look, I like the match as well. I like that Cody is competing against Brock here because I think it would have been a major mistake to put Cody Rhodes in that Raw title match because we've spoken about this countless times. It would be a huge mistake from WWE to make Cody Rhodes that champion of Raw because you can't come off that WrestleMania 39 loss when you had your moment. It was right there against Roman Reigns, and then go chase another title.
Right, just to give him.
You can't do that.
Right, just to give him the other title would have seemed cheap. This way, if he beats Brock Lesnar, who knows, eventually down the line, maybe you keep that Cody Rhodes, Roman Reigns possibility open still. So this is definitely the better path for Cody Rhodes to take as opposed to wrestling for the new world title.
Agreed. And on that topic, you know what would be even a bigger mistake from WWE? It would be Seth Rollins losing to AJ Styles.
I mean, yeah, this title has Seth Rollins' name written all over it. AJ Styles, Seth Rollins is going to be a big match. I do expect Rollins to win and him to be that top face, though I could see them putting it on AJ just to give someone for Rollins to chase, and if Rollins eventually gets it. But whichever way it happens, I do expect Rollins to be the star that's made even further. His legacy will be cemented even more with this new world title.
Well, here's my thing, Sean. It's enough of the chasing. It's enough, he's put his time in. He deserves this way more than AJ Styles does, in my opinion. He's been gone for a little bit, kind of off the face of the earth here. He was hot for a minute, had those feuds with John Cena. Haven't seen him in the last couple of years. It's Seth Rollins' time. But here's a question I raise. Why not Finn Balor as the Raw champion? I mean, when he first joined the main roster in 2016, he won the Universal Championship at SummerSlam. The only reason he had to give up the title is because he suffered an injury that same night. We have not seen him as champion since. So I think that's an interest. Maybe he, in my opinion, deserves it more than AJ Styles, but ultimately I think it's Seth Rollins.
Well, honestly, the only reason AJ Styles is in this match, because he's on SmackDown, I think the only reason is because with, like, playoffs going on, they wanted SmackDown included just to get their viewership, but ultimately it will be a Raw title no matter what. And that last match for the Raw title, like, for Rollins to advance as the guy for Raw fighting at Night of Champions is because he defeated Finn Balor. So that's easily something they could go back to. Or they could easily have Rollins feud with the Judgment Day right out of Night of Champions, and that'll be an interesting feud too. They have a lot of history because Rollins injured him, and that what caused Finn Balor to drop the Universal title. So now Finn Balor has an easy bone to pick with Seth Rollins for another feud.
Well, look, we have a lot to discuss in terms of WWE when we come back for our next show. We'll see how Night of Champions goes, but for today, that's going to do it. Thanks for listening to the Bret and Sean Show on the WBCR radio station. Have a happy Memorial Day, and we'll catch you guys Wednesday, not Monday. Wednesday, June 7th at 1 o'clock. Take care, folks.